Hi, today I want to talk to you about taking critiques or feedback as an artist and how important that is to improving in your skill and career and everything that has to do with art. I used to take a lot of training school classes with students, and they were varying degrees, varying levels of artistic achievement in their career, but they were all very serious about it. The one thing that I noticed in the more beginner type artists was that they couldn't take feedback. And when I'm going to use the terms synonymously, feedback and criticism, same thing, is crucial to becoming a better artist. You cannot become a better artist if you can't take feedback. The reason that people can't take feedback or criticism when they're starting out is because art is a deeply personal endeavor. It's something that you use to express yourself and your feelings. So you have this very strong connection to it, and that's very valuable. That's very important to have that. You shouldn't try to diminish that, but you should learn to create a distinction between yourself and your art. Even though it is deeply personal and deeply connected to who you are as a person, how you feel, your perspective, how you view the world, you need to have a healthy distance between yourself and your art. You are not your art, even though it is a product of you. The reason that you need to have this space, this disconnection, I don't know if I want to call it a disconnection. I want to say it's connected to you, of course, but you have to create this space between you and your art, because in order to improve or to take feedback, take honest criticism, you're going to have to not take that as criticism or feedback on you as a person. When you start out, it's going to seem that way. A lot of artists that start out in the beginning will pour their heart and soul into a piece, and that's great, that's beautiful. But when it is someone that is trying to grow in their artistic skill, they need to learn how to filter criticism and feedback. It's not always going to be constructive. Sometimes it will actually be destructive, and sometimes it will be well-meaning but not constructive. Let me give you an example. So a piece of feedback or criticism that would be well-meaning but not constructive would be something like, "That looks great, good job." It's the kinds of things that you see on Instagram or YouTube or ArtStation, wherever people are showing their art. It's the kind of generic comment. It's well-meaning, people are trying to be supportive, and I think that's great, but it's not feedback and it's not criticism, which is fair. Not everyone wants criticism. Not everyone's asking for criticism. So to just say, looks good, there's nothing wrong with that. But someone that is actually trying to look for the weaknesses, look for where they are lacking. I try not to give feedback or criticism where it's not asked for. If someone is sharing art with you or sharing something personal, a piece of music or writing, and they just want to share it with you, it's totally fine to say, "That looks really good," or "This is a really interesting story," or "That sounds amazing." There's nothing wrong with saying that. And in fact, that is what I will do if it's good, of course. I don't lie to people, although I will tone it down maybe if I really don't like it. But if people are just sharing with you, then you should try to be cordial, I would say. The difference is when people are asking for criticism. And if they're asking for criticism, I think they pretty much know the process. You can preface it with, "Well, do you want feedback on this, or are you looking for criticism?" Because people that are just trying to share, they might not be prepared for any kind of tough criticism, so it might be better to ask at the outset if they're ready for it. But if they do, then you can give your honest feedback on what you like, what you think needs to be improved, what you think the strengths are, what you think the weaknesses are. These are things that are very valuable to artists, to anyone who's creating anything, to know the strengths and weaknesses from an outside perspective. When you're creating something, painting or making music or writing, you get so deep into it that you can't get a fresh perspective from it because you've been so mired in it for so long. And it's really helpful to get outside perspectives, to get a fresh eye, someone who hasn't seen it before that can just give their like snap judgment, their snap impression of it. So valuable. And it's really the only way that you can improve as an artist. You have to know where your strengths and weaknesses are, and through showing other people and actually asking for feedback, asking for criticism is going to expose those things. And a lot of times you'll realize that you kind of knew it all along. You kind of knew that, oh yeah, I kind of noodled a little bit, over-rendered some areas, or I neglected to do this part, or I haven't studied too much perspective because it, I don't like it, it's boring, or whatever it is, or, oh yeah, I always do the legs too long. And it's a funny thing because in the beginning, a lot of artists will kind of chalk it up to, oh, well, that's my style. That's the kind of way I like to do it, is, my style is to be out of proportion, which, I mean, it's okay to have stylistic changes that aren't anatomically correct or correct perspective, but they have to be conscious. And you can't just say it's your style because you don't want to learn perspective, so you do everything out of perspective. That's kind of a cop-out, and you're lying to yourself. But it could be your style, but if it's done in a smart way that helps strengthen the piece or give it the mood or atmosphere you're going for, then yeah, that's okay. But that's a higher level thing. Even Picasso could do super realistic portraits, but then he chose to distill it down into abstract shapes. That was a conscious choice, but it wasn't because he couldn't do a realistic portrait. And that's a very important distinction. Giving feedback and criticism to other people will really help them in their development, but make sure to ask if they're ready for it, because not everyone is ready for it. Not everyone wants it. Going through art training schools and my artistic career, I've become so accustomed to feedback and criticism that it doesn't faze me. I don't get upset by it. In fact, I really like to receive it because that's how I can see those weak spots that I have been neglecting or that I need to focus on. And if you can find a community that you're able to give back and forth, you're able to communicate freely, and you trust each other that you're actually looking out for each other and that you're in their best interest, that would be super useful. The one thing that I lament about the internet that was something that I had the fortune of experiencing was art forums. And I used to go on art forums all the time, and I would be able to speak with professionals and get feedback from like artists that I admire that are amazing. And some of them became my friends, and I'm honored to be friends with them. But it's something that I can't really find anywhere else. I mean, I'm kind of rambling and reminiscing right now, but yeah, those communities were a great thing. I'm sure there's Discord communities and things like that where there's artists that give each other feedback and help each other, but it doesn't have to be artists. You can get feedback and criticism from your mom, from your friends, from your girlfriend or boyfriend. Anybody can give feedback. It doesn't have to be an artist. It has to be a fresh eye, anyone. And just show what you're working on to them and just ask them, what do you think? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And that'll kind of direct you towards what you might need to focus on. And it could be for that piece specifically, or it could be for your entire artistic skill. If you get enough people that are all saying that your faces look weird or kind of off, then that's valuable information that you can use to say, oh, okay, I guess my face, the proportions of my faces on my characters or portraits are off, and that's something that is worth studying and focusing on, and then your work will continue to grow and improve from that. But it's also important to take it with a grain of salt. all this feedback and criticism, because I did say that anyone can give criticism and feedback, but it's not always going to be valuable. The reason that feedback and criticism is not always going to be valuable is because people are going to bring in their own tastes and biases into their feedback. Unless they're a professional artist or someone that is very skilled in the field that you're working in, who knows the fundamentals and can sense what you're going for with your art. For instance, if someone shows me anthropomorphic character design, that's not really my cup of tea, but I can still look at the fundamentals. I can still look at the draftsmanship, the line work, the rendering, the perspective, the anatomy, the proportions. I can still look at these things and still give feedback, even though that's not really my style, that's not what I am drawn towards or interested in. I can still see what they're going for and what they like, and try to help give good feedback to them for what they're going for. But oftentimes you'll get feedback or criticism that is more towards the person's taste. I guess the easiest example of this would be if you did some kind of anime drawing of a character and you presented it to somebody and they said, oh, the eyes are too big, the legs are too long, they're too lanky, the proportions are all out of whack, the face is too sharp or whatever. These are stylistic choices that are done for that style that person clearly isn't attracted to. So they're giving you feedback and criticism that is more in line with what they like to see. You see this all the time in art school where the teachers say no anime. I mean, they pretty much just say no anime, but if they didn't say no anime and you were drawing anime, then they would most likely give you feedback in the same vein as that. The proportions, the line work, the stylization of it. So you really have to take criticism and feedback to heart and implement some discernment when you're deciding whether or not to integrate it into your work. It will most likely resonate with you if it's something that you feel is valuable feedback, valuable criticism. You'll feel like that it's something that will improve your work. And as an example, you can give me feedback on this video and criticism. Even though I am brand new and this is the very first video I've ever made, I'm going to try to apply my own tough skin, my own thick skin on receiving it, as long as, I'm gonna implement these principles. And leave a comment below on what you think I could have done better. Was I rambling too much? Did I is there some issue with the filming? Is there some issue with the way I'm speaking? And any kind of feedback is valuable, even if it's hard to hear. And I'm sure a lot of it's going to be hard to hear because I have never done this before and I'm not very good at it. No, I shouldn't say that. Should I say that? That's probably bad. I don't know. I'm starting out. I haven't figured it out yet. But yeah, if you could leave a comment below and tell me what I can improve, I would love that. Thank you. And let me know what your thoughts are about criticism for artists. That's something that I have a lot more experience with than video making. And do you agree with what I said about feedback and criticism? Are you able to take feedback and criticism with your work? Is there certain things that you get more sensitive about? Let me know. Thanks. See you next time.